Okay, and we are back. It is another episode of In Focus, and I am your host, Hayden Green. And it is my pleasure to welcome another young photographer to the show. And so we can talk a little bit about photography and about how people get to where they are. Today we have Peter Afriyie, and I want to welcome him to the show. Did I get that right? Or did I miss it?
You
Almost.
got
Oh.
it. You almost got it.
Say it for me.
Afriyie.
Okay,
Well,
Afriyie.
you can. That's kind of like an ethnic pronunciation, so you can just say Afriyie. That
Okay.
works better. It's easier to say
Got
if you
it.
say it
Got it.
like that.
I'm a stickler. I try my best to try to get people's names proper.
And I appreciate that because I've heard my name said all kind of ways.
Listen, my name is Hayden, and I have heard it misspelled and mispronounced and misspelled. So like, and that's a simple one. So it's like I feel your pain. So Peter, we have photographers on, and we really just want to have a casual conversation about their photography life. So to start off with, how do you describe yourself as a photographer? What kind of photography do you do?
Well, my main focus is in photography. I like to say that I don't want to put myself in a box, but as far as like things I'm passionate about in photography and what I like to do, two things that come to mind are street photography and documentary photography. So like street, that just was where my beginning was. Like when I got my first camera, I didn't really know what to take pictures of. I just knew I had a camera, so I would go outside,
Go
take
outside,
pictures
yeah.
of stuff. And then, eventually I started following people who did the same, who were like way better than me. And then it was just like, I got influenced by them and developed my style and went from there. The documentary stuff is something that came a bit later. I would say, as I got older and matured, kind of saw like uh, how the world kind of really is, and I decided that I wanted to like tell stories about people. I felt like I saw a lot of stuff like that, and I was inspired by it. So I kind of felt like I wanted to do that as well. So uh, I started with street. I still do it, but now I started getting into the documentary side as well.
Sounds good. Now it sounds like there's a journey there, and so did you go to school for photography? How'd you pick up that first camera? Like somebody, like where did you? How did you come to photography?
Well, I wouldn't say it was by accident, but my photography journey first started, I would say, in college. So I wasn't a photography major or anything. I didn't study it formally, but I needed electives to fill up my transcript. So I decided to take this media arts class, which was black and white photography, like intro, and I liked it. There were times where we got to learn how to use the camera. We were in the dark room developing prints. We got to develop our own film, and that like just that process was so engaging and so just like hands-on, and I loved it. And then after that, like I kind of couldn't put it down. So I took the next level class, which was digital color, and learn how to use Photoshop, learn how to use Lightroom, retouch, stuff like that. But I would say that's kind of where like my formal education ended.
Okay.
But I had to give the camera back and all that. And then I just took my regular classes. I finished my degree, but I was still always interested in photography. So even though I didn't have a camera, I was still like on YouTube looking at tutorials for like looking at reviews for different cameras, things like that, looking up techniques that you could use and just studying because, hopefully one day I would have been able to get a camera. And that opportunity actually did come when I was at a wedding of a friend of mine and the photographer was there. And like during some downtime, I kind of went over to him, spoke to him, just, I guess, showed him my interest and my enthusiasm for photography. And he kind of noticed that, that I had a passion. And so at the end of the night, he came and found me and he said, yo, I have this old Canon 7D laying around. Do you want it? And it's like, yo, of course I want that. Like I didn't know where I was gonna be able to get, a camera from. Them things are kind of expensive. But yeah, he gave me that. And then, like I mentioned before, I started going out on the street and just shooting little random stuff, and then it just led to further and further like opportunities. It all
Wow.
started from there.
So dude just like, I've got a random camera that I have hanging around. I'll just give it to this strange guy who kept on talking to me while I was trying to work at a wedding.
Yo,
There you-
mysterious ways, huh?
Hey, listen,
That's how God
I've heard stranger stories. That I'll take that one. That's great. That's excellent. So in terms of the work that you do now, so you talk about the documentary work that you're interested in doing now and the street photography that you have that you cut your teeth on. How does being Black influence that? Has it opened doors for you? Have you seen obstacles that you had to overcome because you were a Black photographer? What's that, how has that influenced your career?
I would say, being Black, it actually did kind of work to my advantage in a way, because Black people tend to come from like, lower socioeconomic backgrounds, and they face adversity and obstacles that other people of other races are fortunate not to. But growing up Black, I saw a lot of those things, and I do feel that like the best art comes from telling your own story.
Mhm.
So, having those stories to tell, like telling the stories of, not only facing adversity, but the
Overcoming.
resilience
Yeah.
to overcome it and get through that and just survive every day. Like those are things that are definitely reflected in my work, to this day. So I feel like growing up Black exposed me to that and allowed it to influence my work.
It's awesome. That is awesome. And I think that that is no truer thing as like you bring your own story to your photography. But I think what's embedded in that statement is that photography is the art of storytelling and really being able to take people on a journey with the photographs that you present in front of them. So that's
Yeah.
that's an awesome perspective. Well, you know what? That's actually a good place to take a break right now. And we're going to break it off a little bit right here with Peter, and we will come right back. Okay, we're back. This is In Focus. I'm your host, Hayden Green, and I'm going to try it again, Peter. Afriyie? Afriyie.
Closer. Yes. Yeah, you got it. You got it. That sounded the best
That
out of
second
all.
Y that it.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky, I know.
Okay, so we're sitting and we're talking, and we talk about what you've been doing and how you got to this point. Talk to me about what's next for you. What's in your future? What projects are you working on?
As far as projects, 2020 has been a crazy year, as you all
That's the
probably know.
understatement of this interview.
And originally, like my main focus was to do a project on COVID and how it affected the city. And so I noticed how, this virus, invisible, but it did so much damage. People are out of work, people are dying, people are working from home, people are scared to go outside. And like the way everybody has behaved has just changed. And on top of that, for the most part of the beginning, the city was empty.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something that me in my lifetime, I never experienced, So I felt like I wanted to capture the city like in its emptiness and the residents' response to everything that's going on. And
the city is New York City. You grew up in
yes, New York City. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm from New York. But then that was all preempted by, unfortunately, the murder of George Floyd. And so that, as you know, sparked dozens, hundreds of protests. People have been demonstrating, go out in the streets in a way that like we've never seen before. And I also felt that like that represented a unique opportunity. Like I mentioned before, I like to tell stories. So this represented an opportunity to do just that. And so I went to a few protests. I was marching in the protests as well as documenting them. And then in August, I was able to go down to Washington, D.C. and participate in the Commitment March.
Yeah.
And, protest is one thing, but that was just something else. Like just seeing all those hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people just standing there in solidarity,
Wow.
all in furtherance of the same goal, which is just equality. And so when I got back home from the march, I couldn't really just stop there, so I felt that a way that I can contribute to, this thing that we're all fighting for is to highlight different individuals who have been successful in their field, individuals of color, Black people, and, high achieving, as a means to inspire the younger generation. Because honestly, all the stuff that we're doing, all the stuff that we're demonstrating for, all the things that we want to achieve, the goals, they're not really for us. They're for the future generations. We're just trying to set the world up to be a better place for them. And so by telling these stories of people that have come out of where we come from and made it, I hope to inspire a young person to hopefully do the same. And then that would all help to lift us up as a people.
That's dope. I really appreciate that. So speaking of young people, let's think about yourself as a young person. If you could harken back to when you were 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, and you were able to talk to that person, what advice would you give to your younger self in terms of photography? What would you tell your younger self, and what photography advice would you give?
Yeah, definitely get started earlier, number one. Because I didn't really get into it until I was like in about my late teens, early 20s. But if I was able to start earlier, I don't know where I would be now. Right. But also, another thing I would tell myself is to just try and move without fear. Just go out and do what you have to do. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to fall. And just set a goal and just, go out and achieve it. Don't be afraid to embarrass yourself even. Like nothing ever came out of being afraid. Mm-hmm. You just got to learn by doing. And also, I would say that something else I would tell myself is to try and learn the difference between critique and negative opinions. Because a lot of the time, people see you on a path to something, and for some reason, they just have a spirit that is of discouragement. They want to bring you down. Maybe they feel bad about themselves or whatever. But also in that same vein, people do want to see you do better. And so even though they might not like give you the praise and applaudits, they might try and help you by constructive criticism. You got to be able to accept that.
Yes.
You got to be able to accept that and learn from it. But it's important to know the difference between constructive criticism and what I mentioned before, which is just
negativity.
People trying to tear you down, negativity. And also, do I have one more?
Go ahead. I'll take all the advice you can get. I'll pass them on to my daughter.
Yeah, because I wish I could talk to my younger self right now, honestly. Thirdly, I would say just network as much as possible. Don't be shy. Go out, talk to people, find people who are interested in what you're interested in. Find a circle of like-minded individuals. Seek out mentorship, and just stay in constant communication and don't ever be afraid to ask questions, honestly.
I think you're a real testimony to that. Like you got your first camera, it's because you were asking questions and you were networking with the wedding photographer. And I guarantee, I'll tell you this right now. I have gotten more assistance from people who have seen me working and are like, hey, listen, my son needs a job, or I need to, I'm a young photographer. Can I come tag along with you? And that networking piece is really, really good advice, because the photography community as a whole tends to be one of the more giving communities. Like if you ask a question,
I would say for sure.
People love to geek out about it. It's like, and you got to be prepared to sit down for about a half an hour if you ask the questions. Like,
and I'm here for it.
Honestly. How long you got? And so it's one of those communities that if you are interested to receive the information, there are a lot of people who are willing to give. So you're absolutely right. Networking is key.
Yeah, for sure.
So listen, this has been great. I really enjoyed our conversation. I want to thank you for coming on the show. I hope you had a good time.
Oh, I definitely did. It was definitely a great conversation, and I appreciate, just being asked to come on here and talk about my journey and my path.
Cool. Peter, if somebody was looking for your stuff, if they want to buy something or hire you or see your stuff in a magazine, where can they find you?
Okay. I actually forgot to mention this point when I was talking about my projects, but I'm actually looking for, individuals of color who are high achieving, who want to celebrate their success. I want to tell your story. And so if you know anybody that is like that, or you're a person like that yourself, um, you can reach out to me through my Instagram DMs at Metro Sniper. That's METROSNIPER. And also, I have a contact form on my website, which is peterafriye.com. PETERAFRIYIE.com. And, just go on there, reach out to me, and, we'll set something up. I would love to tell your story.
Absolutely amazing. I look forward to that. That's going to be so dope because I think that that's a story that really needs to be told. Peter, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, and this has been awesome. And again, this has been In Focus, and we want to thank Peter. Thank you for coming on, and join us next time as we continue to interview young and upcoming photographers and talk about how they got to where they are and where they're going with photography. So thank you for tuning in. Stay in focus and stay safe.